This is a Bach piece known as the Bach Bourée. And it is an example of melodic minor in action right at the beginning. Where is melodic minor? What is melodic minor? What am I talking about? So the melody for this piece, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, D sharp, E, F sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. That first part of the melody is melodic minor in action. We are in the key of E minor, which means we have the notes E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and E in our scale. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. One sharp, because of course E minor is the relative minor of G major. They share the same key signature. So the key signature, one sharp, is the F sharp. And when we play the melody for this tune, we add a C sharp and a D sharp before ending on E. But then, what's going on there? We've got an F sharp at the bottom, D natural at the top, followed by C natural. Suddenly, the D sharp and the C sharp are gone. As we descend for the final cadence, music is a journey for the listener and for the musician. Music takes us different places. One place is the major scale. Usually we encounter the major scale in the form of C major. Those are the notes that have alphabet letters as names. There are no sharps or flats. It's the white keys on the piano. It's theoretically the simplest key to describe. It serves as a template. It serves as a baseline for all of the other key structures, chords, etc. Another place our musical journey might take us is minor keys. Now, what are minor keys? We can think of a minor key as something that is derived from the major key, or we can think of a minor key as something that stands on its own. After all, minor keys kind of play by slightly different rules than major keys. Sure, we can start out by looking at the Aeolian mode and saying, okay, the minor key is something that is rooted on the 6th degree of the major key, at least for a start. We get the same key signature for the minor key and the major key. And yes, the tonic, or the note number 1 of the minor key, is the 6th note of the major key. But once we've established that, something else happens. The phenomenon by which we play a major chord on the 5th degree of the minor key. If we are, for instance, in the key of A minor, and we play the 5th chord of the key of A minor, we might decide to play an E major chord instead of an E minor chord, which would give us the notes of the key signature. But when we play the E major chord, we have a note that is not in the key signature. And we do this by course. We do this just as part of the idea of a minor key. Now, when I talk about choosing to play a major chord or a dominant chord on the 5 of a minor key, I'm talking about a choice made by a songwriter, composer. When we encounter that chord in a piece of music, we have to know what to play around it if you're improvising, what riffs to play based on what scale, what kind of scale. Now, normally, if you hit this chord, say an E dominant 7th, you might be inclined to play Mixolydian mode, because that's the scale that normally goes with a dominant 7th chord. But we are in a minor key, and we need to keep the minor 3rd of the key in place. And so we play Mixolydian Flat 6. That scale is Mixolydian mode with a lowered 6, as the name implies. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. This scale, beginning on the 5th of the melodic minor structure, is, of all the modes of melodic minor, which we will look at in a moment or two, all the modes of melodic minor, there is one mode that has its own internal symmetry, and that is the 5th mode, Mixolydian Flat 6. The tonic of the key is embedded in that mode, the 4th note, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can lead up to that note, or you can lead down to it from above. And this mode, Mixolydian Flat 6, brings out the essence of melodic minor, more even than the first mode does, more even than the raised 6 and 7 of the variation of the Aeolian mode that we play in melodic minor. The 5th mode of melodic minor is really the core of the entire structure. Now, we tend to start out thinking of minor keys as simply relative to a major key. We start with the notes of the major key, and then we shift our focus from degree number 1 of the major key to degree number 6 of the major key, and then that becomes the tonic of the minor key. And we start out by thinking of it as the relative minor of whatever major key, and we start with Aeolian mode. And then we go from there. We modify Aeolian mode. We raise the 6 and 7, as I've said. But what if we think of minor keys as actually fundamentally melodic minor from the start, rather than a modification of the Aeolian mode? So now it's not relative minor anymore. It's melodic minor from the get-go. And when we play Aeolian mode, we are lowering the 6th and 7th degrees of melodic minor. That is to say, the complete minor key, the total minor key. That includes melodic minor. That includes those raised 6th and 7th notes, not the other way around. We are not adding a raised 6th and 7th. We are starting with those. Instead of thinking in terms of relative minor and major, we can think parallel. What that means is taking a major key and turning it into a minor key by starting on the tonic of the major key and simply lowering the 3rd. So if we take, say, C major, and we play C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and we simply lower the 3rd, so we play C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B, C. There we are. That's melodic minor. Then we can do the same thing with the key of A. If we play A major, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, well, we already have that F sharp and that G sharp, so we just play A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. We arrive at the same place, but we only are altering a single note. It's not an especially radical idea to arrive at minor keys this way, nor is it an especially radical idea to think of the melodic minor scale as the primary minor scale rather than the secondary minor scale.
So that the minor scale sounds like this.
This is a minor scale. Leonard Bernstein says that's a minor scale. No mention of melodic minor, only that the 3rd of the major scale was lowered a half step. So instead of C major, you've got C minor. But he plays melodic minor, and he does it in several different keys.
For instance, here's a major scale beginning on F sharp. And that's called F sharp major. Here's F sharp minor. And here's a major scale beginning on B flat. That's called B flat major. And here's B flat minor. And so it goes.
Just to drive the point home, if you know what he's doing. Otherwise, you just take it for granted that he's playing a minor scale. He says so, Leonard Bernstein. For Leonard Bernstein, the melodic minor was the key. you didn't just think of it as something you did later. It's fundamental to the idea of a minor key, melodic minor. We are still altering the notes of the key signature to get all the notes of the key, which includes harmonic minor in terms of the set of notes we're talking about. He does say the difference.
And the minor scale is almost the same arrangement of intervals, the main difference being in the third note of the scale, which in the minor is a half tone lower.
Is that you have a lowered third relative to the major scale, and everything else is the same. So we are not raising the 6th and 7th key degree. We are lowering the third, and that's where he starts. However you describe what is happening to get that set of notes, whether you are lowering the third or raising the 6th and 7th of whatever note you choose to be the minor tonic, note number 1 in the minor key, you are playing a set of intervals. A set of intervals, which can only really be described one way. I mean, as a sequence. Just as when you learn the major scale, when you learn the C major scale, you go whole step, half step, whole step, half step. And then what? Do you just say, okay, now that I know the major scale and I understand the intervals of the major scale, I'm going to approach every other scale I learn and everything else as an alteration of that scale. And maybe not be as concerned about the interval structure of each of those things, because I'm simply altering the major scale every time I play one of those things. So, now, let's say we start with A minor, and we say A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. Or do we start with C major and go C, D, we just lower the 3? We get to the same place either way. And that place is a series of intervals, whole step, half step. 4 whole steps, half step, and then we're back to note number 1. Now, that structure where you have four whole steps in a row, that's a thing, right? 4 whole steps in a row is a thing. We call that an augmented fifth. On the flip side of the augmented fifth, we have the diminished fourth. Augmented fifth, 4 whole steps. 4 whole steps. If we start on the 3rd fret, and we end up on the 11th fret, and we've played a whole step, and another whole step, etc. to get there, nothing but whole steps. On either end, half step on either end every single time. After that, whole step, then another half step. We've got 2 half steps and we've got 5 whole steps, just like we did when we were playing a major scale, but those half steps are in a different place now. And those whole steps, instead of having 2 in a row and then 3 in a row, we now have 4 in a row and 1 in a row. 1 in a row with a half step on either side of it. Half step, whole step, half step. That's the row. Half step, whole step, half step. By itself, an interval from the low note to the high note that could be construed as a major third. But we are going to construe it as a diminished fourth because we play 4 notes. Because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, those 4 notes are not 1, 2, 3, 4. Those 4 notes are 7, 1, 2, 3 in the minor key. So if I go here, D sharp, E, F sharp, G, E minor. The second note you play in this diminished fourth is the tonic of the minor key. And so I like to think of this as the melodic minor molecule. That is the molecule. The Pink Panther molecule. Knowing how melodic minor is structured based on those interval sequences, those groupings of intervals, if you play the molecule, the half step, whole step, half step, the diminished fourth, if you play that on any string, any point on the fingerboard, if you have room on either side of it, room in each direction, somewhere in the middle, and you've got to play from here 4 whole steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's where the notes are. The next note is a semitone, half step, and then we come down the same way we went up. Then we're here at the other end of the molecule, the 7 and the 1 of the minor key, but we don't care right now because we're playing intervals. And 5 notes, semitone. 5 notes, semitone. Think about it that way. Think about it that way for a while. The next thing I will bring to you is an audiovisual presentation of this subject in the form of the thing you are about to see. If you stick around, stick around. In the key of A minor, we can introduce a sharp on the 6th and 7th degree, adding an F sharp and a G sharp to the scale to produce melodic minor. But there's a little more to it than that. Melodic minor starts out as a way to make ascending minor scales sound stronger. Melodic minor's role has expanded since its origins, and it now serves as a reservoir for all kinds of musical ideas. It can be played in any direction, we can build chords out of it, and it can be broken into smaller groups, like these hexachords. These are the intervals of the melodic minor scale. Can we find any symmetry here? Right here, where those 2 half steps are, the diminished fourth in the middle. The augmented fifths on either side of it. While a diatonic key has 1 tritone, melodic minor has 2, and with 2 tritones, we get 2 tritone inversions. Understanding the interval structure of melodic minor goes hand in hand with understanding its modal structure. If we use symmetry as our guide, we'll start with the 5th mode, Mixolydian Flat 6, 2 whole steps, half step, whole step, half step, ending with 2 whole steps, the only palindromic mode. Now let's look at the 1st and 2nd mode of melodic minor. Notice that they mirror each other. The interval structure of one is the opposite of the interval structure of the other. This symmetry happens again between the third and seventh modes. Notice the positions of the whole steps and half steps. Modes 4 and 6 are also symmetrical. Notice this time that not only are the modes symmetrical, but their Roman numerals are as well. So now we have 3 pairs of symmetrical modes, and one mode that is its own palindrome. Here are the 7 modes of melodic minor in 3 symmetrical groups. The 2-5-1 group, the 3-5-7 group, and the 4-5-6 group. These modes present us with many melodic and harmonic possibilities. At the center of it all is the 5th mode. In melodic minor, to lead to the tonic of the key, we don't need to start there. Melodic minor as a concept in Western music theory stems from the harmonic structure of a minor key with a major triad on the 5th degree. Because the 5th mode is symmetrical, and because it has a symmetrical position in the key, the position of the 5th mode of melodic minor on the fretboard likewise follows a symmetrical pattern. Other modes revolve around the Mixolydian Flat 6. In the key of A minor, the notes G sharp and C, the 7th and the 3rd, respectively, define not only the symmetry within the mode, but the symmetry of the positions of the mode on the fretboard. One position on the minor key fretboard becomes an axis where the notes of the key align, the fret of key degree 2. Notice that it's the only fret position where this happens. Also notice that the next lower fret position features only a single note, the major 7th of the key, also a unique situation. These reference points will help you connect the melodic minor structures back to diatonic patterns. How do we navigate between melodic minor and diatonic key structures? Let's take these same basic forms and move them to the key of G minor. Now let's play some diatonic scales. How did these forms relate to the 5th mode of melodic minor? And other melodic minor modes. key change in there. Now we're in E minor. Now let's go from E melodic minor back to diatonic minor. Melodic minor symmetry can be expressed very clearly on the lower 4 strings of the guitar. These zone shapes are intended to emphasize that symmetry. The upper strings reveal yet another symmetrical array. We've changed keys yet again. In the key of D minor, the 2nd degree axis is at the open strings and the 12th fret, bordering the symmetry. Moving now to the 3 lower strings, we find yet another symmetrical array with the 5th mode and the melodic minor molecule at its center. Considering melodic minor on its own terms means recognizing its symmetry, and also recognizing how that symmetry plays out on the guitar fretboard. Here's 2 more symmetrical modes, the 2 and the tonic. All but hidden among all these layers of symmetry and complexity, yet another symmetrical structure, a hexachord rooted on the 6th key degree. And of course, we can take melodic minor beyond melody to explore its many harmonic possibilities. Melodic Minor adds 6 additional triads to the minor key. When these triads are extended, the result is a minor key with over 14 chords, including augmented chords, minor major seventh chords, and diminished sevenths, which do not occur in the diatonic key structure. Well, I hope this gives you some insight into the idea of melodic minor. I hope that you have come away from this with a deeper understanding of the subject. And if you've made it this far, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. It is always appreciated. Let me know what you think. Please subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your support, and I will see you soon.
And the minor scale is almost the same arrangement of intervals, the main difference being in the third note of the scale, which in the minor is a half tone lower, so that the minor scale sounds like this.